Hello, everyone, and welcome to a scrim between Space Force and Relentless. Alongside me, I do have the one, the only Shred King joining me for the first time on the cast. How are you doing today, mate?
I'm doing well. It's always a good day when you get to cast some Overwatch, right? Watch it, talk about it. Well, not play it, but that's what they're
No, you
doing.
can't do that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, you made it as well. Good to have you here as well. We're gonna have some fun, I hope, at least. Uh,
Hopefully,
yeah, again, so we have Space Force and Relentless. There's a lot to talk about these games. Space Force having some names on there that are obviously familiar to some people. Timo on the Reinhardt is a signature hero. Gertix, Zarya, Fitzy on the DPS with Ragans, and then Bluix and Adurnam on the support duo. Um, Versing Team Relentless, of course.
yeah, no, they are Space Force, and we have multiple well-known players like Emma Winston, Saini, Kotetsu, J-Beans, Cameron, and Avoya. All of these players have been playing in the Open Division and have put up some fantastic results. Definitely people who stick in your mind are players like Cameron, who plays for M&M and it takes part in a lot of those UK Masters tournaments and really performs their fantastic main tank, and definitely looking towards them to be very aggressive and interested to see how that style will translate over from his previous team and whether in Space Force they will be utilizing it. Alongside him, they do have players like Saini, who is an impressive DPS, someone to keep an eye out for. So definitely a lot of names that you can really expect to see great plays from. So really, you could watch anyone, but if I had to choose one person, it would be Cameron because he is fantastic on that Reinhardt, and his Winston is no slouch either.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, you're a little more familiar with the players than I am, which is, to be fair. How do you think that Team Relentless will be dealing with that aggression? Do they have like the tools to properly, deal with that, or?
I think Relentless as themselves, I've not seen them work together as a team. I've seen the individual parts a little bit more, but definitely have been together longer than Space Force. Space Force are a mix, trying out a lot of other teams. Quite a high SR mix, but trying to find some kind of combination that works. So they definitely aren't fully on the same page, I believe, unless we see some fantastic plays from out from them. They just click together instantly. So
Mhm.
Relentless really have to utilize that knowledge and the confidence that they have playing together to try and counteract Space Force because Space Force are very stacked.
Yeah, I would say that the current meta in that respect does not really favor Team Relentless in that since there's so many picks from the double snipers that can just happen and just
Mhm.
take away all that teamwork. It's like you can set up that entire defense, but all of a sudden, oh wait, that integral part, like your Mercy can be gone, your Zen can be gone, everything can just fall apart just by those two snipers. So yeah, even if they do have that teamwork, I am curious to see if they also make it happen like outside of those picks.
Mhm. Definitely excited to see perhaps some sort of tracer come out from Reagan's. That is something you see in specifically EU. It's not seen much play outside because obviously Brigitte is very strong. Hanzo can one shot, Widow can one shot, and it does struggle a little bit, but it's been played to quite an impressive degree. For example, in EU Open Division and even in some of the contenders, Charles, and some contenders, not very much there, but it can still play that role, being harasser in the backline and really catch people off guard. So definitely looking towards Reagan's to bring that out alongside the rest of his team, alongside with specifically Gertex, who can try and play that middle ground or dive with him.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. That Tracer's now still played a lot because we actually saw her being played in the Overwatch League playoffs.
Mhm.
Philadelphia Fusion pulling off
Now
a triple
arriving in
DPS comp with double
Toronto.
sniper and that Tracer, just making sure that they had that extra DPS and backline harass. Now we are loading into our first map, which is going to be Lijiang, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Specifically gardens. We're starting on the garden stage, which is of course a very heavy Pharah map. We'll see if the teams will actually start running that. Especially Space Force has a very competent Pharah, to say the least. Uh, and we'll see if Team Relentless will answer them in kind. Uh, well, we'll see what they rock when they come out the gates. So as the team's preparing for their attack right now, you see, well, Fitzy is still rocking that Symmetra, Evokia as well. Might actually be seeing the hero play right now after months of silence in the higher tiers of play. We are going to be well, very interesting here. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, but really interesting to see how this symmetry is going to come out. Some people have touted it to be a really good counter to the Widow because you can maneuver a lot, try and chuck some of those turrets up there, or even use the ultimate just to completely zone her off the fight.
Oh, they just immediately go in with a teleporter. They take a lot of space, really quickly get in there. Evoke does switch back over to Mercy, so we won't see much more Symmetra. And J-Beans actually takes out Reagan's quite early in the fight.
That's a really nice dive alongside Cameron here, and they're using that aggression early. Luckily for them, Farah does escape, and we'll see Fitzy's start to fall back alongside the rest of the team. They're just waiting for everyone to be back. They can't contest it anymore after losing 2 early picks over to J-Beans.
Yeah, I think what was really smart about using that Symmetra there was just getting their Zen in position really quickly. They just booped him out of the gate. Probably it's actually a little more effective than starting with that Lucio pick at the start, which you've seen Mercy players do a lot. And it just got their Zen in a very good position to keep, not being harassed, not being dove past that bridge.
And that's actually a really nice punish. Cameron playing overly aggressive there on his own, and we see Reagan's finding the snipe alongside a lot of other damage. And they're starting to contest this point. They're bringing everyone they can onto it, but still, we see Sadie in the skies dropping rocket after rocket, and Timo will go down. The res does come through just about from Adernum. They're continuing to fight, but we see Cameron, he's back in the fight now. They're trying to keep it on going, and they actually force up the Transcendence, but they're looking to try and win this fight. The tick is coming up, and actually this is really good for the side of Space Force. They're just getting so much percentage, and they're winning out in this fight.
Yeah, it was mostly very beautiful because you saw Space Force playing rather defensively. Was playing a bit back, so waiting for Cameron to come back, and then yes, the Transcendence did get forced out, but they used it to great effect by just getting it into the point, using the barrage with it. Farah usually dies during a barrage, and then they just made that not happen. They nullified that danger that Farah is usually in when ulting. So that was just a very well, passive but very well thought out fallback of Space Force, and they still managed to come out on top.
It certainly was well played. We are looking, though, towards some of these ultimates. There's now going to be 3 apiece looking towards that fourth. But Cameron going down early, losing that main tank is very crucial. Adernam, though, also goes down, and the res can't be used on Adernam. That's something to watch out for. Cameron, however, is a little bit too far forward for that to happen. Definitely looking towards the side of Relentless to make the move here as they move. They are going to continue to be aggressive. Cameron will try and deny them. We see the primal rage pop, and Fitzy also takes out Evokia. Really nice play there from using that ultimate. But Cameron goes to contest. It's going to be Reagan's and Mr. Gertex finding a double kill. Cameron does get an awesome double knockoff, and they're continuing this fight on. However, Adona gets the res through, and Timo starts to pick off, and that's looking good for Relentless as they take back control.
Now you see there that they did have to expend a lot of ultimates, but they will have their support ults back up. So then on the other side, on Space Force, they will have their barrage, they will have their Transcendence, and they do have their Infracide out right now. So that means that Reagan has to play a bit back. Barrage unfortunately gets nothing.
And they attempted to use it, it didn't really achieve too much. Luckily, Emma Winston finds to pick up that kill, and he will drop that Transcendence to try and keep things going. Sani with a nice boop, and it's going to be J-Beans finding another headshot. Red Skull's come through from Adonam, but it's going to be Mr. Gertex who dies on point, and Emma Winston is starting to dole out that damage. It's going to be multiple picks, and it looks like it might be Space Force taking this back. We see Adonam try to hold out, but he has just silenced them. That's going to be it for Space Force in just a second.
Yeah, you see Reagan's just trying to contest, trying to be in, because they know it's just a trickle at this point. They have to keep stalling. Of course, Mr. Garrix goes back in. Then it's Timo's turn, and Fitzy's spamming from the side, but it does look to be over. Although I don't say that, but they are regrouping quite nicely and still getting back in.
Sani does drop that ultimate to take out one, but Fitzy does treat him back. Unfortunately, too many members of his team are dying regardless, and Emma Winston bringing out so much damage on this Zenyatta, and that will be the first round going over to Space Force. What would you say was the key point of that game?
Okay, so what I mentioned earlier is that you got Symmetra out in the beginning that got their team in a better position than I thought Team Relentless was in for Space Force. And then from there they obviously capped the point. They got the first pick on that. They got a Widowmaker pick, and then they took out a few others, and then they just kind of rolled through the end. Of course, they lost one fight because they just got out ulted essentially. But they used their ults very intelligently, and they're positioned very intelligently. Didn't overcommit a lot. Of course, Cameron was playing aggressive, but he did get value because even though he died, he got the mercy, and it was just a very nice back and forth of aggression versus just falling back because you get up some ground sometimes.
And they are starting off with a bit of poke. Fitzies and Saini both staying on this Farah. Interesting to see. We do go to this third round, whether they'll be swapping off the inside map. We do just see a lot of contesting going on early on here.
Yeah, it's just a bit of poke, just a bit back and forth. Both Farahs looking at, but Cameron again going very aggressive because he's behind the enemy team. I don't know if he's gonna live there, but it looks like he is. He actually gets the kill on Blue X.
That was a really nice dive as well from Kotetsu, given the space by Cameron, who dived super hard into that backline, and Kotetsu just executed on it and destroyed both Reagans and Adernam early on in that fight.
It's really like you explained. Cameron's just a very aggressive player, and they're not using him as a main tank. They're using him kind of as a flanker who just has more health, which is a very effective way apparently.
It's certainly working out for them so far, perhaps because they aren't focused far enough, but we see them make an aggressive play forward, but Cameron's going to cut off alongside Saini. They're going to go aggressive onto all of the squishies here. He's going to find 2 kills, taking out both supports. Reagans will refrag him, but his team is falling all around him, and they try to go on the point, but too many members are there. They're too maneuverable. Reagans will even go down to J-Beans.
It's actually fine that Cameron dies. Like, it's not too bad because you know you have a Farah v Farah battle, and if one Farah has a mercy and the other one doesn't because there's constantly a Winston chasing her, then you're effectively already winning out most of the DPS battle. And because you're holding the point, your Widow has better angles. So it is really all because of Cameron that he just keeps splitting everything off, and then he just has Emma Winston backing him up with the damage and the orbs.
It certainly is playing to his strengths, though Reagan's finding an early pick, looking for an opportunity. His team cannot start to move forward. They don't want to get flanked by Cameron because he has been splitting their team so much. Teemo's going to find a vote here, and they will start to push on through. Gedex is going to deny Saini from getting too much, and they're going to keep on fighting. J-Beans has to be careful because Reagan's was looking for that kill. We see Relentless, they're going to start to take control here as we see nice shots coming out from Teemo, just left-clicking onto Cameron, finally taking him down and giving Relentless that strength.
Yeah, and it was very good that they didn't have to expend any ultimates for that, and neither, though, did Space Force. Again, very disciplined with their ult usage. Usually you would see that D.Va use their self-destruct. This is what let Winston use their primal rage to get it to 99%, but they just very smartly recognize that they need to not use ultimates because otherwise they will never get back into that point.
That's a nice ultimate coming up, but it just drops short. Instead, we actually see them retake the point, and Space Force just completely rolling on in here. Unfortunately for them, they used the ultimates and it really didn't get too much value. Traded 1 for 1 and even lost another player. We see the Transcendence come out from Blue X, trying to deny a lot of that damage, but we're going to see Kotetsu go down as well. Really nice focus fire from him, but JVs does refrag, but Cameron just disappears from that. And this is looking unfortunate for the side of Space Force as Relentless is starting to come back here.
Yeah, it was unfortunate mostly for Relentless though that they did give up the point again. That denied them a lot of time they could have gotten, and now Space Force is basically on a one-fight win. If they win one fight, it's very unlikely that Relentless will come back in. When JP's getting those picks, I see an end of the map coming.
Yeah, no, rather unfortunate for Relentless. As JP finds 3 kills, and you know, that's probably going to be enough as they move on in here. 6v3, decimate the remaining members, and just completely stomp, taking that first map just absolutely wrong. Like, they just utilized the aggression from Cameron and just utilized ults where they need to.
Yeah, I would even go so far as to say that Cameron wasn't necessarily playing aggressive. He was just playing very far forward because he was waiting a lot for just an opportunity. Like I said, he was playing like a flanker, not so much as a straightforward "I'm gonna dive in and kill things" aggression. Because that is the aggression that is gonna get you killed as a Winston, and he just used his aggression more in his positioning rather than in his like presence. So of course you see a lot. It's the same thing with Reinhardt's. That you see them. You have to shift Reinhardt's. You just press shift, they go in and then they die. And he could have done that, but he didn't. He was already in the backline, waiting to like just get the backline, just split them off. And wasn't actually being over-aggressive. He prioritized staying alive and harassing them and splitting them off rather than going over-aggressive and dying. Now, since it is of course a scrim, teams like to often play 3 rounds to control point. Normally it's of course a best of 3. But, you know, it's practice, so they could just easily, you know, get that in. So we're going to control center, which is of course a very different thing. It's not going to be dive versus dive. It's actually going to be a mirror comp in a 3-3 versus a 3-3. So the good old goats comp, as we call it.
I mean, that's not a huge surprise coming into this map. The only thing I would expect is perhaps a Junkrat or a Hanzo for some of that spam, because it is very strong here, but instead they're just going for a hell of a lot of tanks and getting beefy and in amongst it. They're going to be very aggressive here. J-Beans just about surviving due to Evokia, and Kotetsu coming to the rescue. Cameron is under a lot of pressure too, but the team is just rolling around at the speed of sound and is constantly bailing out players. Space Force doing to be aggressive. They are being pushed back. This really nice play coming out from the side of Relentless, but unfortunately they're the first one to yield, and it's just all snowballing the way of Space Force here.
The ults are being used here, which I don't know if it was the wisest thing, but they might be just be switching up after this. What was very interesting to see about that whole poke war is that one team took a lot of damage and the other, well, basically deal a lot of healing. So the support ults for Space Force were coming online much sooner than the DPS and tank ults for Relentless, which netted them in more sustain, obviously.
Certainly have been fantastic. That Coalescence can do a lot of work as we see the return Coalescence come through. They're continuing to be aggressive here. This is what they need to do with this comp. Unfortunately, there's a Diva Bomb in their backlines. It doesn't find too much, but it gives an opening for Cameron to be aggressive here. Unfortunately, for Cameron, there's far too much healing. The team does survive. It's going to be the return charge. Cameron goes down. Unfortunately, it's a trade because Reagan's also gets caught off guard by Emma Winston. Teemo's continuing to be aggressive here. The Diva Bomb finds absolutely nothing there, unfortunately. Kutetsu, and it's Mr. Gertex who keeps on going forward. The shatter comes out from Teemo, and that's going to be the fight. They take so many names and, you know, just add them to their list of dead.
And what was especially important, which just went gone into chaos, is that Gertex managed to actually eat the Graviton of Tsaini, so they will have the Graviton advantage as well. And, well, since they're chokeholding right now, that's going to be a very easy Graviton to get off as long as the Diva is not on her mech.
I mean, you say that, but congrats to Sani for generating 90% of that ult charge already. He has been on fire so far on that Zarya. So something to keep in mind is that they pretty much do have that back. As long as Fitzy's doesn't use it in the next few seconds, it will be even usage though. He is looking for an opportunity. Keep that in mind. Cameron is also looking for something, but it's going to be Sadie who actually uses it first, and that's a big combo. They need to actually get some damage in though, and unfortunately, it finds absolutely nothing. The fight is going to keep on going, and Fitzy still has theirs. The shadow comes out from Cameron, but unfortunately, he doesn't really capitalize on too much. I say that. He goes absolutely ham, finds 2 kills, and Sadie's destroys Fitzy's before they manage to use their ultimate, and this is going to be the fight going over to Space Force, bringing it back up towards 50%.
Yeah, because even though they didn't get those kills in that Graviton, it's just one of those things, right? If you grab first, you generally get more value out of it, and Fitzy's has still not used his, and Sani is already halfway to the next one. It's like you say, he charges them like just incredibly fast, which basically makes the grab more even again.
Watch out for that. Diva Bomb though is coming super hard. Finds 2. Cameron drops at the worst possible time, letting his team down and giving so much opportunity over to Relentless. They keep on being aggressive here. They do have the numbers advantage. 6 to 3, and they're taking it all the way they possibly can. As Space Force get chucked off the point yet again, and that will take over.
It's very nice to see that these teams are on much more even footing compared to the other 2 maps. There's of course a bit of a roll from Space Force, but out here we just see what Relentless can actually do when they're not forced into that dive comp.
And they are doing pretty well. Unfortunately, they get hit by Graviton Surge. There is no follow-up, so they're going to do fine, but the Shatter does come out, and it's going to be all of these support Optimus bursts. It's going to be Cameron finding a double kill yet again onto this support and tank duo. Fitzy's is high charge, and he's looking for that ultimate, but he goes down at the last second. He tried to bring it back, but Cameron, Sani, and all the gang are just rolling here, and they're going to take back control at this point.
That might actually be good though that Fitzy didn't get it here, because they're going to have one more fight, and having a Graviton for that fight is something very valuable. If you had thrown it away there, that might not actually have been the wisest choice. So maybe it was good he died. I don't know how good he is with ult management.
Space Force yet again waiting for the blow to come. They have it right here. Cameron's looking for his ultimate. We see a load of Coalescence coming out. He does have the Shatter, and he does land a hell of a lot, but unfortunately there's no capitalization. Yet again, these teams are not coming in those ults super well. It's going to be Kotetsu though, and Emma Winston finding multiple kills, and unfortunately for them, we see nothing come out from Mr. Gertex. It's going to be all one-sided. It's all seeing blue. and it's going to be over in just a short period of time as Cameron continues to be aggressive in this backline, and there's very little that they can do against so many members of Space Force as Relentless, unfortunately, brought to a halt.
Yeah, it's one of those things where both teams didn't get a massive amount of value out of their gravitons, and that's mostly because, as opposed to having Hanzo on your team, you're really relying on the rest of your team to actually get in there. You go right click in there yourself as a Zarya, maybe get a Diva bomb in there. Reiner needs to be swinging, and all the while the enemy team has a lot of sustain. They have stun potential from the Brigade. They maybe have a shatter of themselves to deny a lot of things, and they have a massive shield, of course, in the way. So there's just a lot of things that can deny a lot of value from the Graviton when you don't have that damage boosted Dragon coming through there.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I'm surprised we didn't see more of the Hanzo. I feel like it would have been a good pick here as well, and maybe brought something special to one of these teams, because at that moment they were all playing pretty much the same thing and not much variation. If they brought out perhaps double sniper, even though we saw some great sniper play come out from players like J-Beans and like Reagan, so they certainly don't lack the players who can do it. But they just decided against running the comps. So I want to see more of that from them, possibly going into these following games with those more meta strats.
I do think that there's going to be a lot more interesting stuff happening, especially on this map. We're in Rialto, of course, very new map, very unplayed map. It's been played right now in contenders, of course, but it still has like a ways to go as to develop a proper meta for the map itself. So I feel, especially with the long sidelines, there's going to be more snipers. Double sniper, definitely a very valid pick here. And as Space Force runs out on the defense, we do see that double sniper. Evoki on the Mercy, Cameron on the Orisa, and Emma Winston on the Roadhog. So they're going for a single healing, triple tank, and double sniper setup, which is something that we've been seeing a lot more of lately.
It's a little bit strange to me to see that sort of comp, but it does definitely work out with things like this. Roadhog who can deal with their own healing. I'm interested to see Emma Winston move on to more of a fragging tank role because they were actually fantastic on that Zenyatta, so I'm looking for more great shots from them.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be interesting. And we're going to see, of course, what Team Relentless is going to be doing here. They haven't left their spawn yet. I always say, don't really judge the attacking team before they've actually left their spawn. Although in the last 10 to 5 seconds, they generally tend to swap on what they're going to do. It's going to be dive with double sniper and just a 2-2-2, which is very standard these days.
Not a massive surprise. They're bringing out the good old faithful, as we actually see. The thing which surprised me most about this comp is not the single healer. It's actually Cameron on Orisa. It's just really weird to see, because he often plays the Reinhardt and plays it very aggressively, or he plays that Winston and obviously plays it really aggressively, because that's what you do with Winston in most cases.
Yeah, well, what I've been saying before, I don't think Cameron's aggression is much like in his playstyle as in his positioning, and I feel that with Orisa, that positioning can come in very handy. So we'll see what Cameron does. He just does get dived here alone, no support, so he does die. But they do refract on Reagan.
Yeah, and that's pretty key. Losing one of those snipers, unfortunately, the other sniper shows it right up and takes out Emma Winston with a hell of a lot of damage coming out from Fitzy. He's starting to light up that school, but it's going to be Mr. Gertex joining him there. But it looks like it's actually a strong push so far from Relentless.
Yeah, this looks to be at least a push through almost to the point. I think Space will have one more attempt to contest, but those tanks are really spread out a little. It seems that Cameron didn't drop in time or was left to his own demise, and then Emma Winston tried to compensate for a frag, but he was just also like by his lonesome, not really getting any like backup.
I mean, we will see the Dragon Strike come on through. That's going to zone them quite a bit. Unfortunately, oh my god, Mr. Gertex finding a quadra kill, taking out 4 members of the enemy team, and will set them up to just take that first point.
Yeah, sometimes you can defend, and sometimes you just get a nuke slapped in your face. That's really what's gonna happen. So yeah, Relentless is pushing out through quite well. Happy to see that they've got more tricks up their sleeves. So now we're gonna see what Space Force managed to hold. Cameron switching off to the Reiner, of course. Kotetsu going to the Zarya, and J-Beans on the Brigitte, and Emma Winston back on the Zenyatta. So a lot of switch around still in the Hanzo. This is what we call a 3-2-1 comp. Solo DPS being Hanzo, 3 supports. And they're going to be poking out a little bit. There's not a lot they can do right now, especially Relentless, because they're just on the card. They need to find a dive opportunity, and there goes Teemo.
They will keep on pushing forward. Teemo does get sent packing, and Reagan's unfortunately falls off the edge. The res does come through for Durnan, but that is going to be a lot of kills starting to come out from Space Force. They're starting to capitalize on their advantage, and Cameron is trying to deny anything coming out from Teemo, who did pop that Primal Rage. Then unfortunately, both Hanzos die. There might be a lack of a damage to deal with him because he is just walking on in. It does expire now, but he's looking for a flank, and it's going to be pretty much denied by that speed.
Yeah, you see that those blue numbers just piling up inside that corridor. And sure, there's a payload there that can help out the red team a little bit. Just Relentless can hide behind the payload and in other corridors. But they need to get in at some point. They need to start getting kills. And it seems they're having a bit of trouble with their dive tanks going in and making that space for the DPS to get shots in past that shield of Reinhardt.
And I think swapping off of the Sarisa was definitely the right pick. Relentless are looking for an opportunity as they do Dragon Strike him, but they themselves are caught in this Graviton. They will be the ones to find the kill, though, as actually no real follow-up comes out from Space Force. We see the shatter come through from camera, but it goes wide, and this is going to be Space Force just completely stomped on this area, and they just can't seem to do a thing.
Yeah, it's the self-destruct from Gertex went out behind them, and then from there a lot of unraveled. There was just a lot of kills that happened somewhere in the middle. It wasn't really one team wipe. It was just someone happened to fall, and then another one fell, and then all of a sudden there's no follow-up for your Graviton. So what are you gonna do? Well, you're just gonna lose that fight, in honesty.
I think they were panicking because of the 4K that just come out. They are starting to regroup, though, as they do get up 2 kills. There will be a res coming through, but keep in mind they now have that cooldown of J-Beans needing to be aggressive here on this Brigitte. And Cameron's trying to protect his backline. Sadie starts to focus down Teemo. He will go down. The Dragon Strike comes through, and they're going to have to dodge to the side. There will be some big fights going up here, but it's going to be going the way of Space Force. Finally, they managed to hold it.
Maybe you should just stay out of my way.
And once again, now they can just walk back to these chokes. If Javin's up there with the Brigitte, so if they want to flank up there, he's going to be just there, you know, just blocking that off. Cameron down in the choke, just blocking it up with his shield. Sadie did go a little aggressive there. I don't think that was the plan. Maybe he did want to throw out his ultimate and switch. But yeah, that might have been an accident. I don't know.
Yeah, no, they do say fat fingers in chat, and it wouldn't surprise me. It was a bit of a whiff, and also he was far too far forward. Will be a lot of shots coming down from Fitzies. They need to be careful because they don't have a hit scan to deal with him. Maybe only Emma Winston, and Emma Winston's going to go down here. This is starting to look good for the side of Relentless. Sadie, though, taking down Fitzies, and with that pick there, Space Force can start to contest again. They've got some reses coming up, and it's looking good for them. The shatter comes through from Cameron from way up on high. Transcendence is forced out from Blue X as they continue on this fight. That self-destruct is going to be happening. Unfortunately for them, doesn't find a thing, but Space Force continuing to be aggressive because of that whiffed ultimate, and Misty Gertex will get chucked right back. That will be the Graviton Surge, which is only a little bit taken up upon because Evoke does get some shots in, but unfortunately for his team, Relentless are just going super ham here, and they will take out Space Force.
Yeah, that was just, it was a bit of an elongated fight, that's reasonable, and Sani swapping up to Widowmaker still gets the kills. Like, sure, they lose the team fight, but Sani just showing that, yeah, you know, you made to kill my team, but I'm still here, so do be careful, don't push too far. And Relentless doesn't. They do actually not, they're not able to, like, fully just keep pushing. They're not doing that snowball dive just because Sani gets those picks. They just allow Space for it to set back up in this choke and do the same thing all over again, wasting a lot of time for Relentless.
That was a nice pick onto Reagans, does force out that res, and that's going to be a major cooldown, but J-Beans finds another. These two snipers have been fantastic so far, and now they're going to use that to push on forward Space Force, not missing a beat.
It's just that danger from the double sniper I'm talking about. You can be as organized a team as you want, but if those picks happen, again, J-Beans taking down Reagans, there's no opportunity to use that coordination because you keep losing those vital members, and it just keeps happening. They need to somehow get in without getting picked off and without getting staggered because Fitzies and then Blue X also goes down. Reagan's finally answering, but that just gets rezzed up. So no, they need to regroup and try again.
This is a little bit of an impenetrable fortress where they currently are. You can use these double snipers and really hold well. We see Teemo pushing forward, trying to be sneaky, looking for opportunities as the rest of his team does join up behind him, but there is a big shield in front of him. There's not much he can really do about that as he tries to creep on up here. We see shots coming from above. This could be Sadie finding Miss Gertex, and there's gonna be that self-destruct coming on through. It's gonna find two, and that is yet again another win for Space Force.
Yeah, we've been talking about that old management of Space Force, and you see that sure, Relentless is coming up on 5 ultimates, but still, Space Force holding on to the supportable ultimates, holding on to that dragon, a lot of zoning, a lot of sustain, and Relentless, I don't know if they're going to be able to push through with the ultimates that they have, even though they have almost all of them.
We don't have much time.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a struggle, especially with Emma Winston. With that coalescence, they can definitely mitigate a lot of that damage. Saini, yet again, winning these duels. These have been fantastic. That's an interesting ult from Emma Winston. Perhaps another fat finger as they actually go really aggressive with it. Definitely wanting to try and use it maybe a little bit forced so you can go on forward. Demon's looking for an opportunity. Self-destruct does come on through, and Cameron backs off just enough as they start to drop that Dragon Strike. But the Transcendence is there to negate all of its damage. Blue X, good usage there, but Cameron is right on top of him and his team. J-Beans is finding multiple kills even without Saini. It doesn't seem to matter. Mr. Gertex gonna find a kill onto their counterpart, so they're continuing to contest this, but they need to find the damage, and that shatter from Cameron is going to shut down multiple members and give the team an advantage as they just destroy the side of Relentless, and Space Force are going to the moon.
It's often what you see with these higher tier teams. It's like you can take out round 1, but there's always a raid boss left. Whether it was Cheney, whether it was Cameron, whether it was Emma Winston sometimes, there was always someone that then all of a sudden got that double frag or got that ultimate off that just saved everything. And aside from the giant 4K that Gertex got, I haven't seen the same sort of old value or the flashy plays from Relentless so far. So I'm hoping that they can step that up, and generally the attacking side is the side to do that. So it's a bit of a shame that they've already had it, whereas they now have to like hold as valiantly as Space Force has just now.
It'd be interesting to see how it goes, whether we'll be seeing Space Force play that aggressive style again now they're on the offense and not holding firm. I definitely want to see Saini and J-Bean stay on this GPS because they were fantastic throughout that game. So definitely excited to see more of that.
Yeah, and I'm very interested to see if Relentless runs this Orisa as well, and how they run it. Because of course Cameron got caught out very early, and then Emma Winston followed on the Roadhog to just get taken out. They just didn't have the time to actually contest them at all in the first point, especially with 4K from Gertex.
I certainly expect Teemo to be a little bit more proficient on that. If I remember correctly, they have played a bit of it before, and I honestly don't like the match for Cameron as they actually seem to be picking it again.
Yeah. To be fair, in my personal experience and what I've seen so far, Orisa on attack is not a bad choice as opposed to Reinhardt. You will generally take a lot more spam than you will on defense, and the Orisa shield is just overall a better spam shield than Reinhardt's is, because it recharges so much quicker.
Yeah. But I just don't like it for specifically Cameron. It doesn't really fit his style as he actually falls straight away to Blue X. A bit of a rookie mistake as his team is now down a major cooldown, honestly.
Yeah. They are holding a lot more aggressively than Team Space Force was. Holding on that right platform over here. Saini peeking from the right side. Just getting that damage in on that shield, trying to get an angle on Fitzy's potentially. But then as soon as that shield drops, just J-Bean's taking out Reagan's again. And this might be where it all starts unraveling, unless Fitzy actually takes that big back.
I expect to see a lot of focus now coming towards Fitzy. He has been impressive so far on this Hanzo, and I feel like once he goes down, this team will start to struggle on the damage from Fitzy. He has been doing such a large amount of work. He already has his Dragon Strike. Reagan's falls again, and Relentless struggling to stay here, and it's all off of the back of Fitzy as he is actually forced out of his position and even goes down. J-Beans finds the pick, and now they're starting to all move forward.
J-Beans is actually behind the defending team. He's all the way in the courtyard, just taking that flank. And the defenders and attackers seem to sort of have swapped positions. Gertex going like past them as well. And now J-Beans is just already looking at the enemy spawn, just being up on this high ground, going towards the water side with a big health back. Emma Winston going with it, maybe for an environmental kill. And yeah, positioning is all Space Forces.
And that is unfortunate from Fitzies. Gets picked off early and allows J-Beans as well to just have that kill. This is really bad for the side of Relentless as they lose major players early. As Fitzy's been their main damage output. And then moving on through here, it's going to be a struggle for them to contest. Luckily, they do have that spawn advantage, so he is going to be back up for this final hold.
It does feel a little bit slower than Relentless's push, but then they were stalled out a very long time on second and especially on third. So we're going to see how much that matters. Still a contest going on, under 2 minutes now left. And we'll see how long they can keep this going, Team Relentless. Because they are using ultimates to defend this.
And it is invested to Vayne because Cameron actually doing a really good job at fragging out this reset. He's all over that kill feed alongside Timo, who has died and been res and found kills, so completely filled up with pictures of a reset.
Yeah, it really seems that the worries for Cameron on Orisa were for nothing. He's actually being the one that pushes the payload now. Generally, yeah, that's Zenyatta the payload, and now Cameron's just like, no, it's fine. I'll just put my shield up. I'll chill here for a bit. It's fine. I don't mind it. Emma Winston coming back, Evokia coming back. They're just pushing the payload together. Not taking up too aggressive a position. I would like to be them to be a little more aggressive, because now they will probably have to fight in this choke again. I don't know if that's the best idea for them.
Honestly, it's just been Relentless going aggressive right now, and Emma Winston's going to eat a whole bunch of damage, and finding those early picks is pretty huge for the side of Relentless, as they're now going to keep on being aggressive, and they have that numbers advantage. It's going to be them taking control of this point now. Great play from them, as Emma Winston will try and get that kill, but unfortunately, Mr. Gertex still has those boosts.
Damn, what?
Sorry, yeah.
No, go ahead. What did you notice?
I'm just going to highlight that I'm really impressed with Evokia. They are solo healing, and they have found that it's so very seldom have we seen members of Space Force go really, really low and die. They have gone really low, but oftentimes they're just being kept alive by fantastic healing coming up from Evokia on this Mercy.
Yeah, Evokia really showing up there on that support side. The support's gonna highlight it off enough. What I wanted to actually highlight is the use of the Transcendences in these games, because aside from a combo, there's not many ultimates that can get a team wipe. So they've been using the Transcendence. Like Relentless just use their Transcendence to just walk into the enemy team, just jump all over them. They just wave crashing down on that cart. And well, again, they just walk through the building, went all the way almost to the enemy spawn, where you see Cameron's body just like on the bridge, even on the far end of it. So yeah, Relentless now being much more aggressive, which we hadn't necessarily expected from them.
And honestly, it's worked out for them. They now have 4 ultimates moving into this defense, maybe even 5 with Fitzies if he generates a little bit more. So something to keep in mind, that self-destruct doesn't find a thing that opens up yet again. And this is really aggressive usage of these ultimates. But the side of Relentless, and it's working out fantastically for them, as Fitzies stays just about alive due to Blue X. This is going to be great for them. J-Beans is trying to turn things around, but unfortunately just doesn't find the targets. And this is just Relentless taking control of the game.
Now, it really seems that aggression you were talking about on Space Force's side is something they don't really know how to deal with themselves. If they're not the instigators, they don't know how to really back off quickly enough. They don't know how to just take that away. The entire enemy team just death falls into them, which Relentless is now doing. Then they don't really know how to like go around that and play aggressive, because they can't. They're being aggressed upon. And it's not like there's a backline that's open to die for Cameron. So where's he gonna go? And yeah, they were just being run over. Now, of course, Space Force did take that last fight, so they are now pushing very hard to second point. But there are a lot of ultimates up for Relentless that can swing that right back in their face.
And I have to highlight that was all because of Kutetsu, who's now under so much pressure, gets solo ulted, Jimbo ulted alongside Saini, and that's going to be big for Horizon as they do move on through here. Space Force are going to get beaten back yet again, and this triple DPS unfortunately gets caught out, and that is one of the issues that it does have.
Yeah, that is it's one of those things where you think, do you need an extra body, or do you want those small, like lower health but higher damage targets that just, well, I mean, they don't need as much constant healing as tanks do when they take poke. It's either they're dead or they're alive, generally speaking. Yeah, and it didn't really work out in that instance, but you will see 2 DPS ults up now. There goes the dragon to split them off, which it does very nicely. and we'll see the barrage come out, no doubt, very soon as well.
The self-destruct finds Relentless. It's going to be Kotetsu finding the first kill, but it's going to be JB's dying and then getting rid straight away. But Blue X using that Coalescence well to find a kill onto Evokia. Good punish there from them. The Space Force continue to be aggressive here. They need to take this point. They have to win this fight. Otherwise, they will lose out here on Rialto. Mr. Gertex, though, trying to deny them that, and it will be so much damage coming up from him, saving the day as it ticks over in overtime.
Yeah, and it's very well. You saw a lot of more focus being put onto Evokia, and as you said, Evokia doing so much healing, doing so much that even though Emma Winston had switched off to Zenyatta, it was just something that was very important to Space Force to actually keep fighting the way they did. That aggression needs a lot of sustain, and as soon as Evokia on that Mercy goes down, you just lose a lot of that healing, and then we get that beautiful 4K text. It was just a beauty. It was the deserved play of the game. Well placed, just well capitalized on the confusion, I suppose.
Yeah, we will be getting straight on into the next match. It is a Scrim, or we'll be moving to King's Row, somewhere where we are obviously seeing a lot of that Zarya Reinhardt, which we've already been seeing. So probably both teams are feeling pretty comfortable here.
Yeah, King's Row. I always say it's probably the favorite map of about 80% of the player base, if not more. It's of course the most original map everyone's displayed since beta and knows this map by heart. Even though it might have seen some minor changes, you still feel at home at the Row of Kings.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just so. It's just everyone feels really comfortable, and there's lots of opportunities for different kinds of picks. That's Definitely. One of the main things, and it had its own back in the day. It had its own niche pick of running the Junkrat, which wasn't seen a lot in other places, but now obviously is a little bit more of a mainstay, especially for a couple of seasons there. So definitely exciting to see what it will bring out here from these teams. You see some pretty wacky and wonderful strategies from time to time. So excited for that.
Oh, we see the Orisa coming out again from Cameron, which we've had our doubts about on defense, not so much anymore on offense. And then, so we're kind of in the middle of what's going to happen. So if they do choose to run Cameron, he's going to apparently be setting up on the high ground. It's going to be interesting to see how much of a positional advantage he'll get this time, as opposed to the last time where he just got left to his own. Of course, this is Widowmaker's playground, so JBean's on that Widowmaker. Tseni, as you mentioned, on that Junkrat, which used to be a niche pick, but is now almost a staple. And then the attacking side going in with that Goats comp, so there's going to be a lot of spam value from that Junkrat.
Not a huge surprise here. A lot of teams like it. It was actually, I think, first played by Bazooka Puppies on this map, where they played like a large number of tanks. It was considered cheese at that time. But they're going to have to go up against a lot of focus from Space Force as they just move on to the point. They're eating a lot of damage. Kotetsu drops down, and they're continuing to fight here, but that Brigitte will find a lot of damage early on. Kotetsu gets completely wiped out by the side of Relentless, and they're not even contesting. That's the second tick going down. They need to get on the point soon. Otherwise, it's going to all be for naught. Emma Winston does find Chemo, and they're starting to contest here, but unfortunately, the refrag comes through, and this is a big fight. Saini uses the tire, finds two, and Relentless will keep on fighting. Unfortunately, they are losing members left, right, and center. They are struggling to find that final tick as we see a lot of damage start to come through from these DPSs.
Relentless, true to their name, fighting to the last man there. So the comp that Space Force is running, I want to talk a little bit about this. So they're essentially saying, Kotetsu, you're gonna have to contest the point as long as possible, because otherwise we can't get the damage out in time against that heavy comp. And then they get the Junkrat ultimate, they get the different angles from Emma Winston and from JBeans, and they eventually find the frags, but you said so much percentage given up, and they're going in again.
Unfortunately, they do trade back. It's going to be Kotetsu who falls the first in terms of actual deaths. Cameron is getting a little bit beaten on. This will actually be great for Relentless as they take the point. Unfortunately for Saini, as he just about drops his ultimate at the last split second, Space Force are going to have to haul ass because now they're massively down in terms of spawn advantage.
And that is really the disadvantage of that entire comp. That what are you really going to do when they just walk onto point? You need to be able to pick off members from a distance and from these different angles that you can take on the high grounds around it. But then if they just stand on point and shield all that damage or just sustain all the damage, what is it really worth? And yeah, Relentless just taking out those triangulars, just walking in, Cameron using that ult because he's very likely going to switch. And we're going to see them switch over to almost a mirror comp, but they will keep Zany on that Junkrat instead of going for a third tank.
And you know, I don't think it's a bad idea. It's been working out pretty well for them so far. If City was a split second earlier, they would have managed to hold that point at least for a little bit. Do keep in mind, though, there's a couple of ultimates starting to come out for Relentless, so definitely watch out for Mr. Gertex, who's been pretty impressive with these bombs so far. You see aggressive plays come out. The self-destruct is going to find absolutely nothing, unfortunately, and we see a lot of ultimates popped in response. They're continuing to go aggressive. Again, those Transcendents used for aggression and will get rather punished. Zany can't find that tire as Reagan shuts him down. Timo will be the one to fall. Unfortunately, though, as Emma Winston finds that frag, they're going to keep on being aggressive here. The defense is trying to hold this point with the skin of their teeth. They keep on battering them, and Space Force will hold here.
And once again, the Graviton getting absolutely no value because of the lack of a combo. Like, you just couldn't walk in there. Zany came out with the tire in time, and unfortunately, Mr. Gertex has just already used that self-destruct, so they couldn't even use that as a combo for the grab. And it was just too much sustain because, again, 3 supports, you don't even need ultimates at that point to keep them alive. Both those AoE healings and those orbs from Emma Winston, that's just going to be enough to sustain through that grab if that follow-up just isn't there.
Certainly, I mean, now we see still a lot of ultimates as we do see the Graviton surge come through from Gutetsu, and Zany follows up with the bomb. Big bang attack as they get blown out of the water, and Relentless will get forced back yet again.
And not only are they forced back, but they lose all of their support ults in one go. The rally had just come out, the support, the sound barrier had come out, and Blue X had used the coalescence already. So there really isn't anything left for them, and Adurnum actually switches over to that Mercy to counter the entire ground-based comp of Space Force with that fire on Gertex.
Watch out for J-Bean sitting around this corner. He's looking for an opportunity, and he's going to give it to Cameron as he finds the Earth Shatter and rides on through. Very aggressive, but his team is going to be the one who do all the damage, and they completely destroy Relentless yet again.
Yeah, that was just perfect setup. It's that combo that people have been trying to master ever since Brigitte Reinhardt became a thing. Because that stun into the shatter, there's nothing able to block that shatter anymore when that Reinhardt shield goes down. Maybe a Zarya bubble, but that won't save everyone. And then it's just, you know, J-Bean's running forward, just smacking the supports of Relentless in the face.
And that's certainly the coordination we expect to see. J-Beans and Cameron, both UK players, starting to live it on up. We do have a couple of players in the Overwatch League, and certainly some great talent to watch out for, like Cameron and J-Beans themselves. Unfortunately, J-Beans goes down, beaten out by Reagan's. The return frag does come, and Zany is helping his team go forward, but that's going to be an ultimate come up. Mr. Gertex just gets completely denied as they just can't find the damage through that Transcendence. Zany and the gang having so much fun destroying the remainders of Relentless.
It really feels like they don't know what their target is on Relentless, and they just, like, even though they are, like I said, Relentless, they fight to the last man. They don't seem to have a grasp on, we need to kill this target and then this target. There's not really a list that they want to go down. They just try to get a lot of damage out, and against the sustain that Space Force has, that is not enough. They're waiting for the DPS soul to get value, but it generally comes in too late and it doesn't get the value they want. It may get 1 or 2 kills, but it's just not enough. It's not the value that Zany's been getting from that Grip Tire.
See yet another Graviton surge coming through. They're going to just unload all of their damage. The return doesn't even matter. I expect to see Fitzy swap off of this if he used that there because it seemed pretty irrelevant. Well, it was just an unfortunate ultimate.
And it's again the same thing, there was no follow-up. Had they saved the barrage from Mr. Gertex, there might have been enough follow-up to get some kills there, but they had already used it to no avail. So they're staying on the same composition, not really changing anything. Adurnum on the Lucio, Reagan's on the Brigades, Blue X on the Zenyatta. Sure, they have a Transcendence, but I don't know. I don't really think it's going to be enough to actually push through because they are in overtime right now.
And they're going to drop everything but the kitchen sink. They've got a couple of things in reserve. Here comes the tie now. Watch out for it as it's a 5k coming out from Zany. Absolute madman. Shuts them out of the game with a lock and key.
If we thought that Mr. Gertex could get 4Ks, then we haven't seen Zany on the Junkrat. Again, like you said, it has been a map that's been rather popular for Junkrat since day one. just because of the close quarter spam potential. But honestly, that is just another level. That tire getting, of course, a little more mobility and movement speed, but I don't even think he needed it there. It was just pressing Q and almost detonating immediately. That was just a beauty. It was the perfect timing to get that 5K.
Great play coming out from Saini. It's just, I'm gobsmacked that he managed to find that in the middle of all that chaos. We'll be swapping off of that Junkrat. Doesn't feel like it's super great on this offense as he is now hovering this Hanzo.
Yeah, this double sniper on the attack definitely is being lined up. Yeah, of course, a very popular pick. All the sidelines always been called Widowmaker's Playground. And then Hanzo just adding to it with all the spam and the damage. And they're actually running a triple DPS at the moment. But again, it's an attacking team. I'm not gonna judge that yet. So let's look at the defenders who are setting up in, well, basically the exact same composition that Space Force ran on the defense. Going up with an Orisa, putting a Junkrat next to it, just going for that multi-angle spam. And I'm very curious to see where everyone will set up, because that is generally what you need to know. Where is everyone and what angles do they have, so we can actually get maximum value out of at least one or two of them. Because the more angles, the less defense, of course, can be put up by the attacking team to mitigate it.
We do see a lot of angles being brought out. If we do see oh no wait, that's a Vokia, sorry, hovering the Pharah. If we did see the Pharah, definitely brings a lot more in that vertical plane to keep in mind. Are they actually staying on that?
No, Evokia just using that Pharah to boop the defender, off that high ground. Does manage to do it, but they have time to set it back up. The only thing they're missing is that Orisa spam for a bit. Evokia is going back on that Mercy. JB's getting picked off by Reagans, actually.
Cameron gets chucked on up there, but besides, probably doesn't want to be up there. It's going to be Reagans who's starting off this game with a 3, make it 4K for his team. Looking for that 5th? That's 5 kills. The only one to not die is JB's, and that's because they're just too far back.
That's very, very, very off positioning, but it's good to see Reagans finally come alive. Force was very suppressed by both JBeans and Saini in the past, and they even get that late kill on Saini. Just going, no, we're not going alone, we're just going in with 3 people, actually getting that kill.
My ultimate is charging.
Certainly impressive, as not quite got that lot. It's going to be Saini who's also on the same level, so watch out for that Dragon Strike, obviously a lot more impactful. Than the Widow ultimate. May have you in her sights, but she can't quite kill him most of the time. It's going to be Relentless keeping on this defense because they are just being pretty stalwart here.
And we see all that spam on the shield going down, and meanwhile they're not really generating much ult charge because, well, they're spamming at a shield, so don't get anything from that. There goes a Dragon Strike through the high ground, splitting the team up a bit, but not actually getting a kill until they get Teemo.
And it's going to be Reagans again, finding 2 kills for their team, setting them up with that advantage. Will eventually go down. Good flank from Saini and Evokia, keeping everyone alive. This Mercy is amazing so far. Cameron just about survives as a result of that. Will eventually go down. But Relentless struggling to keep them off as they are just sustaining on through it, especially with that Transcendence. This is going to be Space Force taking command of this point.
And Saini was just hopping around everywhere on that Hanzo, just taking off, backing off, and Reagans is back on the high ground, back in position, does get picked off by JBeans, but not before he frags Emma Winston out of that fight.
That's an interesting Dragon Strike, feels like a little bit of a mistake, but they will keep on with the aggression. Mr. Gotex trying to slow them down, waiting for some more people. Good usage of the Diva Bomb as a zoning tool. Blue X even find Cameron. The red does come out, but it's going to be Evokia shut down, and Reagans is picking up old habits.
Yeah, it is really the Reagan show over here on this defense. Just even when he goes down, just gets rezzed up, or his team will just stall until Reagans is back and gets another pick. Normally you always give the edge to the attacking Widowmaker. I think Reagan's is proving that defensive can be just as strong, if not stronger sometimes.
Yeah, he has been fantastic, making it look like a Cold War show out here, just with mentioning his name all the time. The man on everyone's lips. Reagan's doing fantastic so far, but it's Mr. Gertex who's on fire, has been fighting so much for his team, and the great usage of that shield coming out from Teemo as they continue to be aggressive. The dice does come onto this high ground, but they force him off yet again. It's a real struggle for Space Force to contest this. We hear the tire come out, it's looking for a target, finds one, it's the only Cameron, but taking out that main tank can be pretty relevant. Zany on this Genji will find a couple of kills, but again, Teemo is holding strong alongside the rest of his team. Mr. Gertex even finding a couple more, and this is looking like it might be a good hold for them.
Yeah, and it's just like before. So in the last fight as well, we saw Space Force getting that edge. We think, oh, they're getting a few frags, but somehow, some way, Team Relentless just keeps on that defense. They keep having the right people alive, mostly the tanks just sustaining through for a long time, until again, Reagans comes back and gets the picks. Now Bluix comes in with the Transcendence, again sustaining those tanks, sustaining those bodies, sustaining, well, the point block. And, well, meanwhile, Reagans and Adurnum, and they're just darting around, getting the frags, getting the damage out.
I can really appreciate the support of combat. Finally, the Transcendence does come out for Space Force, but they will continue to fight. They've lost a couple of members, but Relentless are just that, continuing to fight on. But it might look like that Space Force are just going to take this hit. They take control of the thing finally, and they will take it on through. They're going to head towards the street phase, and will be contesting Relentless for this map.
Again, Relentless really being true to their name. They're just stalling out to that last man, last second, and getting it all the way into that overtime. So now Space Force only has 2.5 minutes left, less than that, to actually start pushing through the street space. Of course, we have reset the map, so they have the opportunity to complete it if they manage to do so. But still, it's a question whether they can make it to that second point, let alone the third one.
Yeah, certainly true. And I mean, Relentless have been pretty good so far on this defense. I think it's going to be a struggle for Space Force. They have to find some fantastic picks, and I think that's why they're using this Winston. They want to be very aggressive here, but they might struggle to find opportunities.
Yeah, they've gone to that dive, and what's interesting to me is that we have J-Beans on the Brigitte as they go in with that blade.
Blade finds very little. It's going to be Kotetsu and Cameron, the tank duo, who are going to find those kills. Seni finally cleans on up, and they will actually take it further than we saw come out from Relentless. It's going to be Space Force utilizing this well. Seni is doing a great job on this Genji, even with a Whiffed Blade.
Yeah, and that is that power of that dive. So even though Seni didn't get the final blows that he did, he dashed and slashed through a lot of members of Relentless, just getting them down low enough so the tanks could finish them off. So it's a very smart switch to that dive. Now Cameron goes back over to the Reinhardt, of course, not wanting to use this enclosed space for a Winston. But still, a lot of the same heroes. J-Beans goes to the Widowmaker, and Cameron switches to Reinhardt, but everything else stays.
Good engage coming up from Kotetsu. Finds Fitzies, but it's going to be some return frags yet again, but it's going to be JB finally winning out on this duel against Reagans. With Reagans down, they're starting to make their move forward, but good hold from Teemo is going to take out Sani with a nice charge. It's going to be Teemo beating them back.
And there's just that Reinhardt saying, like, this is my ground, this is my space. If you want to get close to me, I'm gonna get this hammer into you, and you will not like it. And of course, Space Force, is respecting that. They fell back. And now we do see Relentless holding on the cart instead of a little further forward at that corner. Fitzy's getting pick on Sani that just gets rezzed, and then the poke war finally starts.
And looking to fight around this corner. And Sani is looking for an opportunity to go forward. It's going to be a struggle. We do see the self-destruct come on over. That's going to find two. It's going to shut down the fight before it even begins. Sani cannot find a thing, and Fixies will shut him down. This is big for the side of Relentless as they do hold yet again.
That is a lot of ultimates used as well. There was the Dragon Blade coming out. Sani switching to Hanzo, which might have been the plan regardless. So it's now going to be a double sniper matchup again. Reagans and Fitzies versus Sani and J-Beans. And even the tanks and the supports are lined up. So we're looking at full mirror comps, and we're just going to see who does it better.
And you know, it is going to be down to that. And honestly, in the current position, Space Force have just been outclassed. We see some reses come through from Relentless after that initial pick. Fitzy's has this Dragon Strike as well to use, so keep that in mind, even though we do see a used Transcendence come up from Emma Winston. They're being hyper-aggressive. Good shatter, though, from Cameron, but absolutely zero follow-up. The team isn't there, apart from J-Beans, who's in this sniper spot. He's going to find a couple of his team, and Relentless is starting to have feel a little bit weak here, as Space Force find a bunch of kills.
Yeah, we saw that first pick coming out on the forward high ground for the defense. And then after that, there was so much more space for both JBs and Sani to use. They do use this Dragon Strike to create a little space to come out of spawn at least. But we will see if this is enough. This is going to be the last fight, of course, with the time going down. And Abdurnam and Timo being the first picks, this is looking good for Space Force.
Yeah, Space Force taking control here, and multiple boops coming out, destroying the side of Relentless, and they just can't make it on. That's going to be Space Force taking this map.
Yeah, if you lose both that main tank and that main healer, there's little you can do to properly use that space to get some frags. They were just pushed back into their spawns, onto those flanks, and the cart just rolled on through. Again, very interesting map to see. Both teams pulling off similar compositions at similar points in the maps. So yeah, it was very interesting to see how they did that, and both executed somewhat differently. Space Force eventually going for more of a dive. And yeah, they managed to push that through, but then switching back over to the Reinhardt, double sniper being a big thing. It was a very varied map. It was a very fun game to watch.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and we've seen some great back and forths between these teams, so definitely excited to see how this will go on, and whether these teams, after a bit more practice, will show us even higher levels of Overwatch, because so far they've certainly been delivering. I'm excited to see more, especially with Reagan's back on this Widow.
Yeah, I really hope that Reagan's continues his performance on King's Row here. Of course, going on to Gibraltar, again, a very, very good Widow map. Long sight lines once again, going for all those long angles, essentially. What we did see a lot in Overwatch League is the mind games leaving spawn as defenders. So there would be one person staying near the defender spawn and swapping over to a hero that would counter one of the heroes of the attacking team, who would then sometimes also swap, and they would have this back and forth going on with both the five other heroes just like, guys, are we actually going to go in, or are we going to keep swapping here? So it's interesting to see whether these teams will do the same, but I do see the full lineup of Relentless being on this defense, so I doubt they'll actually go for that. Yeah, again, like I said, double sniper dive, and on the attack they have Sani on the Genji right now, but he might swap over to Hanzo as well, so we'll see how that goes.
Honestly, I expect to see less swapping and more hard, aggressive diving. That's what we've been seeing come up from both these teams, especially Space Force. They want to contest early, and they want to push on through as fast as they possibly can.
Yeah, they really don't like to waste time here. Sani already being on that blue box, as we call it. Yeah, no, the sniper shot's coming out, of course, but then JBeans is a very interesting position, gliding down, but still gets taken out by Reagan's.
Reagan's is on the job, and he will find the first pick of the game. Is under a lot of pressure, though. Will have to fall back behind cover. Still manages to find a pick onto Emma Winston through the body of his teammate. Beautiful shooting there. We see him and the gang beat back Space Force once again.
And we see that aggression. So as soon as the enemy Widowmaker goes down, Reagan's like, I'm going to take this forward aggressive position, and you'll have to challenge me with everything else if you really want to do this. Because there's really not much they can do while his rest of his team is pocketing him, or at least peeling for him. And then you still have Fitzy's also being on a relatively ranged position, just taking chunks out of those tanks, and maybe even getting a support here and there.
Keep the payload in motion.
It's been some impressive shots from him, as we see a couple of ultimates on the side of Relentless. Space Force gonna dive yet again, and they create a lot of space. We see that Dragon Blade come out, completely destroys Adurnam, and he wants to keep on going, but he can't quite find the opportunity. The rest of his team will take the point for themselves as they keep on pushing through. Relentless, a lot of pressure, but BlueX does manage to save. No, not quite. Katetsu finds that kill onto them, and the rest of the team, yet again, falls in the background.
Yeah, I mean that chaos. J-Beans gets the frag on Reagans, and then all the multi-angle defense that you could have had is just gone. The tanks can't stay on the point. The Dragon Blade did a lot of damage, even though it did only get one final blow. It did so much chunk damage on those tanks. But the Dragon does come out, gives them more space, especially with the Primal Rage of Teemo, and the Transcendence will even come out to keep defending this. Relentless, again, being relentless.
Yeah, we do see Mr. Kertex drop that self-destruct, trying to create space and time for his team. That team up will have to fall back as they are losing a couple of players. They do manage to frag back, but that self-destruct is not going to find a thing. It's going to be these double snipers lighting up the scoreboard as it's going to be Space Force yet again struggling to close it out.
And that's Fitzy showing the power of that new Hanzo with that storm bow, just getting all those arrows out in such rapid succession that there's no healing to be done. The tanks go down, the DPS goes down, and the supports are, okay, we're still here, but what are we really going to do against the full force of Relentless?
Certainly, and I mean, Relentless have been pretty impressive on specifically defense. They've been really good at finding those defense strats there and dealing with this dive more adeptly. But
we see them here again. It's like they lost that fight, they won that fight, and they just went back to their old positions. Now they do sort of get forced out of their Transcendence. They think it was a response to the Dragon Blade, so that did get value, in my opinion. And now it's just the both the Valkyries coming out from both Mercies just canceling each other out, but then Emma Winston will still have that Transcendence. So that might make the difference, especially with those two frags coming through. I don't even think they'll need it.
Yeah, Mr. Gertex does get a little bit destroyed there as a team kill comes through from the side of Space Force, and that's certainly been them. They've been very adept at actually capitalizing upon these opportunities and finding multiple team kills, whereas we saw from the side of Relentless, they find a couple of kills and they will win off of that, whereas Space Force are just finding strings of kills.
Yeah, and now we see them taking that very aggressive position. Of course, there was only one stagger kill, which was Teemo, so not too much ult charge giving over by the split spawns of Gibraltar, which is so famous for, but still, all the space lost. Like, they have to funnel through this little area, just barely getting through and getting split off again, and then Zany just unleashes the Dragon Blade, and again, chunks a lot, not necessarily too many final blows, but just chunks the entire defense down to so little health that the dive can just finish it off with 2 tanks.
You know, people make a joke about zoning Dragon Blades. That's honest to God what Sadie has done 2 to 3 times now. He found 1 pick in the first one, but the rest of it was a little bit of damage combined with a hell of a lot of fear. Because as soon as they hear it and they see him coming towards them, they just run the hell away. Another self-destruct coming in doesn't find him too much, but yeah, Sadie has been really good at utilizing the instinctual reaction of fear to that dragon.
And what's essentially, like, especially great about the Dragon Blades is that he gets 2 of them while Blue X only gets 1 Transcendence. And that is essentially the value the page you want to be keeping up. But sure, one will get negated by the Transcendence, but the next one, you have a free reign. And then now they switched over to Hanzo, just gets out the Transcendence right away, because there's no Zenyatta left. He will get rezzed up, but that is still a long cooldown gone.
Can't use Transcendence if you're dead. We see the Dragon Strike come through from Bitsy's. We see a couple of Transcendences come out here to try and counteract some of that damage. To be only Sani who's found any kills so far this fight. There's a lot of mitigation coming through. But Relentless continue to be aggressive. Cameron actually has to fall back here, but luckily his team is there to back him up. It's going to be Teemo going down first here as Sani finds a hell of a lot of damage. JB's winning that sniper duel, and now there's so many sidelines you need to be careful of if you are Relentless Space Force taking control of this game.
Yeah, and you're really looking at, like you said, it was that sniper duel, right? So both JBs and Reagans were really only looking at each other, and then as soon as Reagans looks away, JBs is there to capitalize. He doesn't look away. He's like, no, I'm gonna kill this Widowmaker, and then I'll pay attention to anyone else, which is a very fair thing, because, you know, of course, again, if you look away, you might get popped in the head.
Yeah, and Reagan's learned that the hard way. It's going to be Kotetsu finding a lot of kills here, cleaning on up, and even Mr. Gertex cannot hold him back. The self-destruct does come through, but they're continuing to go on through here. Even Sani doesn't die for that Dragon Strike. The Dragon Strike does pretty much whiff. It's going to be Relentless continuing to fight, though. They don't want to give up here. Space Force have rallied together, and we see their own Dragon Strike come on through, and that will be it for them.
Yeah, so while Space Force did get halted for a reasonably long time on first, but then there was just no stopping them. They essentially rolled all the way through Gibraltar as fast as you can potentially roll. Yeah, that was while the first point was a very well planned out and thought out defense from Relentless. I don't think they were necessarily prepared for the aggression anymore after that. There was just the snowball of Gibraltar rolling all over them.
Yeah, and I mean that Gibraltar is something to keep in mind at all stages because it can just roll, and that's what we saw in the second phase. I think we saw one fight in the second phase, and that was them chasing down Space Force, chasing down Relentless right at as they got through the middle.
Yeah, essentially that was it. I feel that the grouping up of Relentless wasn't as successful as they might have wanted. There was always one person that was slightly out of position, or they had to waste waste a res on something. They were always at a bit of a disadvantage, either numbers wise, position wise. There were a lot of things that are going on there.
Yeah, and I am definitely excited to see Blue X possibly moving over to this Roadhog as we see 3-2-1, and with one support, and that's actually coming out from the side of Relentless here now, as they didn't run it previously.
No, they've been running very well on traditional comms, so to speak. So rather very meta things we've seen before, and doing this, the triple tank, double sniper, and a mercy. Could be a starter pick to just try to get someone off that ridge, but it could actually be something they're going to run with for a bit longer.
And they are.
You see that start hook, and yeah, he does go back into spawn and switch to that Zenyatta, so it was just a starter strat after all.
And they're trying to hold this high ground. It has been something which this team looked to favor because they went to check it first, so obviously checking their own tendencies first because they know how to deal with it. And they're going to give up a lot of space to the side of Relentless here, as Space Force will just move on back and do pretty much what Relentless did to them.
Yeah, we're going to see if they get the same value out of that. It looks like Relentless is fine with it. So they're just like, oh, we're just going to push the card and make you jump down to contest it, because they do need to defend, of course. There go the tanks.
This will protect us.
And there goes the tanks! As you quite said, Timo completely shredded by Sadie. Cameron going very hard himself and just destroying members of Relentless.
Yeah, no, it was a very, very, interesting idea to say, okay, fine, if you want to hold on the high ground, we're not going to contest that. We're just going to push the cart. You'll have to jump down at some point, and then the snipers could potentially just sit back, fire from range, and it seemed to go okay until, like you said, they just waved all over them. Yeah, like a wave crashing onto rocks, but then the rocks just turn to sand.
Yeah, unfortunately, sand doesn't make a good place to build your house upon. Just like putting that Dragon Strike there is not a very good idea because it hit absolutely nothing, and Space Force continue to be pretty dominant regardless. They don't seem to need their ultimates. They're just going to find raw kills, and JB found 2 headshots there to lead his team back into another successful haul.
It's a very similar situation, like you said, like Relentless did themselves, just holding that far forward. And now Cameron does actually overstay his welcome at that forward position. Does die, so there will be a short period of time where Cameron isn't there. So Space Force will be fighting without a main tank. And you do see that means something for their positioning.
Yeah, they are going to be looking for an opportunity here. They're moving on in. Timo is starting to be aggressive, but will get counteracted by Cameron, who alongside Sadie will completely destroy Timo. And alongside Fitzy, they're really going to struggle for that damage because they just don't have anything coming out from Reagans that can be considered consistent damage, and especially when Reagans loses the 1v1 as he has been doing so much to JBeans on this map.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see because Reagan, of course, was doing very, very well on King's Road defense. But then, again, also on this defense, he was doing relatively okay until they lost first point. But he seems to have cooled down again. It's like it seems to be, again, like you say, not consistent.
Yeah, and I mean, a nice engage using 2 ultimates. Quite costly, but they need to make it work here. They do stop Avokia from finding that res, but it's going to be kills coming out all over the place. The Space Force, Timo trying to zone out, popping his Primal Rage. JBeans is under a lot of threat, and he will go down. Timo going hard before his team can go home. It's going to be a lot of ultimates invested from either side. Relentless continue to fight. Mr. Gertex sitting on this point will get destroyed out by Sadie and the gang. He gets beaten back yet again, and Space Force only have one, maybe just about two if Blue X builds their ultimates.
Yeah, it really seemed to be going very, very well for Relentless at some point, but then all of a sudden, again, Space Force just sort of backs off. It's like, okay, we're gonna take this, and then we're gonna re-engage. So they stayed very composed, and then just re-engaged and actually won that fight in the end.
Don't let up.
Reagan's finding the early pick on Saini. That's pretty huge here. They need to utilize this advantage to take the payload. Unfortunately, they haven't found any follow-up picks, but it could be just enough. The res does come through, but J-Beans falls this time, and Mr. Gertex with a double kill, with that self-destruct, it's going to set Fitz to be super aggressive here, destroying Emma Winston and giving his team this first point and the opportunity to keep it ongoing.
Yeah, if we've talked about Reagan's getting value sometimes, it's also a very big highlight for Mr. Gertex, because man, has he been on point with many of these self-destruct today. They do take some stagger kills. Blue X goes down, but I think he'll just take the respawn. And they're looking to hold very aggressively as well. Not as aggressively as Space Force, but they're still positioning very well forward. Take that shuttle for them. But Cameron really wants to deny that with Kotetsu.
Yeah, Cameron is on up there. He does eat a lot of damage. He needs to be careful. Has to pop the primal rage to try and contest here. Continuing to be aggressive, but eating so much. Even has to fall back. The Dragon Strike whiffs quite a bit, gives him a bit of space and allows Kotetsu to go aggressive onto Blue X, but Blue X survives with so much healing. It's going to be Sanini and J-Beans who are starting to fill up that scoreboard for the side of Space Force. They're doing pretty well here and they're starting to come back. A nice return from them as they actually managed to hold at least a little bit in this second phase, unlike what we saw come up from Relentless.
And it was almost a lure of Cameron saying, I'm gonna jump up here, Kotetsu's gonna matrix me a bit, then it looks like they might get me, and then I'll just pop that Primal Rage, get them out of there. The Dragon Strike zones Blue X to the side, actually splits up the team a little bit, even though it didn't hit anyone, it was a zoning Dragon ult. So again, Saini very good with those zoning ults, but which Dragon it is doesn't really matter to him. And yeah, they just could capitalize and crash that wave of Space Force on them again.
Oh my god, Mr. Gertex. It's a little bit disgusting coming out from him as he does shut down yet again and gives his team an opportunity to just take this second point. It's pretty much going to be it. I don't think we're going to see any sort of attempted comeback hold from the side of Space Force.
We see Mr. Cameron being in this lower corner on the left side for the attack perspective, with J-Beans actually getting Fitsies, and they will re-engage. Space Force not letting up just yet.
They'll keep on going in and utilizing a lot of ultimates to get them in there. Fitsies does get res, but Reagan is going to fall right away. With Cameron down, there might be a lot of space lacking inside of Space Force, but Relentless keep it on up, keeping to their namesake yet again. Saini goes down inside of Mr. Gertex. A couple of return kills coming all over the place. It's a very chaotic fight, but Kotetsu yet again starting to turn it up alongside Cameron, who does pop that Primal Rage. Very aggressive, and there's very little that Relentless can do against such a high pool of health.
Reagan switching over to the Tracer, I just don't think it's going to be enough. That is, the right people staying alive at the right times. Sure, they get Cameron, sure, they get both the snipers, but then there's still Kotetsu, like you said, just taking out Teemo, and then just keeping on that, pumping that damage. They really distribute their healing resources very well. Like you said, Evokia, Emma Winston have really shown their prowess of those heroes.
And Relentless will get beaten out on this map as well. Fantastic play from Space Force to win that one after a really strong first hold to come out from Relentless. Really surprised that they managed to win that.
Both teams doing very well on their first point defense, actually. And then Space Force just managing to get that better snowball after their first point. Maybe largely due to that, like this zoning Dragon Blade. Like, we thought it was a zoning Dragon Blade. He actually seemed to get a lot of value and get the play of the game from it. But that's just what Saini did. He just went in there, made sure they all stayed in there, and they were so grouped up that every dash, every slash just got the maximum value you can possibly get from that. And even though it didn't look as flashy in the kill feed, it did do so much damage and got so much value.
Fantastic play.
It looks like we will be going to Hanamura. Hanamura being a 2CP map, of course. Yeah, Hanamura's been a very interesting map lately, in my opinion. Because a lot of teams seem to be favoring the GOAT comp, so the 3-3 comp, or at least a very heavy comp on attack, just running straight to that point, just ignoring all the spam damage, and then just saying, okay, we're here, come and get us. Similar things we saw on King's Row, obviously, but the difference here is that there is no strong high ground surrounding the point that you can take all those multiple angles on. And that kind of worries me sometimes. So I see those teams running on there, and then do you think, is it a failure map design? Is it just the current meta that we live in? Or is it actually teams just not being able to adapt to that properly? And we'll see if either of these teams actually runs that, or whether they figured out how to defend against it. Because there are of course ways that teams have been defending it with just a lot of spam. Very similar to King's Row actually is using that Junkrat and Orisa to spam down a lot of on the point. But yeah, I'm interested if either team wants to run that on attack. Doesn't look like Space Force is really interested in that, or sorry, Relentless. My bad. They're looking to run a dive defense with double sniper. So yeah, there would actually be a lot of potential for that 3-3 just running onto point here.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see whether they do run it. I don't expect 3-3 because this team has run it a little bit before, but with the success which they've had from Saini and JBeans on this DPS, I'd be very surprised to see them run it.
Good to see Saini on that Genji. I want to see what he can do on this map.
He can
do that very well. Yeah, that seems quite all right. JB's getting the refrag. The deck, of course, gets rezzed up because it's in a much more favorable position. And yeah, now they just have to wait. They have to wait for Saini to get back because you're not going to take that 5v6 fight.
And Relentless do have the mana up. They're just going to force them to wait, as you said. But they need to be careful because JBeans has been finding these shots and he probably shouldn't be challenging him at this point. And Saini probably shouldn't be tempting fate anymore like he just did.
Yeah, they're just going to be poking at this choke a little bit. Maybe waiting for JBeans to actually get that frag. Or they're just going to look for someone to be slightly out of position for that dive opportunity. There they go.
Brilliant timing from Sonic out from Bitsy and gives his team an opportunity to take down Saini, but Saini will just about survive. It's going to be JBeans who's going to find the kill. The res does come through, but it doesn't really matter as much. There's still a player down. They do have a couple of ultimates to try and use. Relentless seemingly getting a hell of a lot of damage through, and they are actually still contesting, even though they were a player down. They're even going to force off Space Forces. We do see the Dragon Strike come through, does a lot of damage, doesn't quite get them. The Space Camera is still on here, and Fitzy is being forced back. We see them continue to fight. They need to be careful about the Snurps, because the Snurps is doing a hell of a lot of work, and we see absolutely everyone who was on this point fall on the side of Relentless because just consistent pressure from Space Force.
Yeah, although Saini didn't seem to get a lot of value, the only thing he really did was more of a zoning role. The damage he got out, sure he has his Dragon Blade by now, but any respectable Hanzo would get that. Genji would get that in 2 minutes. But he was chasing after Blue X. He was then occupied with trying to kill him. He did manage it, but then the entire enemy team was all of a sudden next to Blue X. So what was he really going to do? Now they're on second point. They're diving out of that high ground where only Mr. Gertex is, and there's the blade. There's the Dragon Blade getting at least one kill.
Yeah, and Saini finding one. Is going to be Cameron who's doing all of that melee damage, taking out another two. And this is looking like a bit of one of those steamroll situations where Space Force are just going to take this second point in pretty much no time flat. Reagan's looks for an opportunity to try and contest, but just doesn't have the time, and Space Force take that with 5.5 minutes.
And what was really impressive for me was, again, that composure. Because even though they snowballed that hard, they still had 2 ultimates left. Still Kotetsu and Emma Winston holding on to their Transcendence and Self-Destruct. Because what happens if they come back and you don't have the Transcendence, or you don't have the Self-Destruct? You might actually be repelled from that point again. And then, well, that 5.5 minutes can easily turn into 1 or 2 or maybe even none. Now we're going to see Relentless try their attack, obviously. And I'm curious to see if they will go for that dive as well. They've, of course, shown a lot more heavy composition. And Space Force seems to be more willing to play against that. So they're pulling out that Orisa and Junkrat and Diva and the Widowmaker and Zenyatta, of course. Evoke you for now in the Symmetra. I do believe that that might be switched. This is essentially the same type of defense they were running on King's Row. So again, with that heavy comp running in, if Relentless chooses to do so, they will get a lot of spam down, and they'll have to. Well, they will have to run straight to point, but like different to King's Row, I feel there's more room for spam, for entry spam, than there is on King's Row. There is more cover once you get onto the point, but you need to get there first. And that is where, especially Teemo on that Junkrat can do a lot of damage.
Speaking of Junkrat, I'm definitely looking towards Saini. Has been impressive so far on this Junkrat, and it's certainly a good map for the old Scrapperoonie. They are going to be looking for some of that spam around the choke, and I think that's why they've got Cameron on Sarisa. They want to be looking towards some of those more diverse comps rather than continuing to just play hyper-aggressive comps.
Yeah, and it is Relentless coming out on that double sniper dive, so not the heavy composition that we may have expected from them. But that might work out in their favor. Of course, JBeans has that shield to hide behind, so that is going to give him so much advantage versus the snipers of Relentless. But that doesn't mean he'll get there. And once again, Teemo just jumps the point with Mr. Gertex, and now they're saying, come and get us.
JBeans finds that initial pick onto Blue X, though. Return kill does come onto Mr. Gertex. JBeans is still continuing to lightly at that scoreboard, and finally, we see the rest of his team join him there. So they do continue to have control of that point. Good play from them as Saini does relieve that pressure.
Yeah, but there goes Fitz. He takes JBeans down. He's still on the pagoda. He's still up there alone. Gets taken out by Saini, but he did take down JBeans, taking out all that sniper pressure because there is no resurrection as Kotetsu had to be gotten up. So that's a 5v5 right now. Unfortunately, Reagan's does not need a sniper opponent that is actually a sniper, because Zenyatta does the same job.
I mean, pretty much, yeah. A lot of damage if you manage to click those heads, which so far Winston has been pretty good at, but unfortunately got their own head clicked. We're going to see that tie come through, but shut down by Fitzy, and that's pretty major for his team. They will lose a couple of members, but in the whole, they are stopping Space Force here. Will be a couple of kills coming out. We see the Dragon Strike, and that will destroy Cameron. No, yet does go down in the end. It's going to be Emma Winston, though, coming back towards the point. He'll start running out. Will die to Fitzy's, though. And Fitzy's clutches it on out on this first point. Oh, or not.
Who was clutching there? I think it was JBeans getting that double frag. Of course, JBeans wasn't actually there in the initial fight, had to come back from spawn, but when he comes back, he makes his presence known. He says, well, I was gone, but now I'm back, baby. And what was very interesting there again is that, Teemo just jumps in with Mr. Gertex, maybe sometimes takes Fitzies with him or a Durnham, and then they just stay on point and say you either go to the gate and kill people there, or you go to the point. Now, JBeans doesn't care. He just gets the frags regardless. But it is an interesting thing that they're trying to do there, I think.
Yeah, Emma Winston starting to find some of that support on that, and doing exactly what Doa would have wanted. It's going to be Space Force, yet again, being really good at just individual play. We saw Emma, we saw JBeans in those last two fights just really frag out. I'm interested, though, to see Saini now on this Tracer.
Yeah, Saini probably going to the Tracer to get back in the fight a little quicker, because what happened there was that Relentless thought, okay, so we basically traded out evenly. We've got the respawn advantage. We just get to the point really quickly and win that fight out. And it looked promising for a bit, but then again, JBeans just started fragging. It was just the picks that got through because of the haste, so the positioning wasn't there, and JBeans capitalized. Now they go back in, a lot of ultimates being used here. Of course, very late fight, late contest, well over 2 ticks being taken here. And there goes the Dragon Strike, another ultimate spent. And it's looking rather even, although I say that Cameron goes down.
Cameron does go down. Trendsetters was forced out, but Kotetsu continues to be aggressive here. Will get popped out of their map. Mr. Gertex yet again being very impressive on this Diva. And alongside Teemo, looks like Relentless will just about take this, but with not a lot of time left on the clock.
Yeah, they're already well under the time that Space Force managed to put up, and they haven't even started on their second point attack yet. JBean's Cheney again, even though they're like stagger kills for the attack, they just say no, we're just gonna take two of you down with this, because then it doesn't really matter if you can just quick attack. So the snowball potential completely taken away. Although I do feel that the ult advantage is on the side of Relentless here, especially with that pick on Reagan's. Looking good.
Tetsu going straight towards point to try and release some of that pressure. We do see Primal Rage popped, and Teemo Fitz, he's starting to find a couple of kills. We might be heading to a third round here, folks, as we do see a lot of ultimates used there. Fitz, he's not finding too much, but will at least set up Relentless to continue contesting. They are looking towards, and they do take this first pick. Teemo is on those front lines, and Cameron is contesting him too, but there's a lot of healing coming out for Teemo, which means Cameron will not be able to live too much longer. Saney is trying to make things happen in the backline, but does die as well. It's going to be some great plays coming out from Relentless. The Space Force need to get on the point now. It's just too little too late, and they won't make it going to round 3.
And even though they didn't have the speed snowball, they had the ult snowball. So all the ultimates were there in the favor of Relentless. Just being able to use one by one, then a support ult came on. And even though Space Force might have been able to come back, there was still some in the bag. So as impressive as the ult usage of Space Force was, like the holding the ults on to potentially fight a recontest, just as well as the old management of Relentless there. So yeah, that was also very good to see that they've been improved in that area.
Definitely great plays on multiple picks. We have from both teams. Excited to see, actually, at one point we saw as many traces as we could possibly see on the field in current Overwatch.
Yeah, it's both teams running that tracer to some effect. Not most. It felt like it was mostly for stall and for mobility rather than for the actual damage, though. Because even though there were tracers, it didn't feel like they got a lot of value, not as much value as tracers used to get, at least. It was much more the Widowmaker and the Hanzo show, because they could just get those one shots. And getting one clip with tracer, I can tell you, is not the easiest thing in the world.
Certainly isn't. As we do move now over to Nepal, unfortunately we don't get a climactic ending to our Hanamura game, but we will get some fantastic play here, and yet again another place where we can see those projectile DPS come out from Zany.
Yeah, of course we got to think back to Lijiang. What happened there was, of course, eventually Space Force taking that map quite handedly, although the inside point, which control center and ball, of course, the other inside point over here, which is Sanctum, they have some similarities, but not as much. The big difference being this giant hole in the middle. We will see both sides starting with an Orisa and a Roadhog here, also running both Widow. But the big difference here, for me, is, of course, the Hanzo versus the Pharah. Like you said, Sani on that Pharah, let's see what he can do here.
Going to be a little bit worried for him as Reagans is on this Widow, and so far he has been on point with a shot. So Sony going to be under a lot of threat in that sky, unfriendly skies, and will have to keep an eye in the back of their heads. Otherwise, they're just going to lose their heads. As Reagan's starting off strong, looking for those shots.
Oh, Kotetsu trying for that cliff hook, Mr. Gertex as well, but they both failed because they were a bit too far away from that cliff. Cameron going down, and then it just seems like Relentless is, well, walking all over that.
Fantastic 3K actually coming out from Blue X early on in this game, and great play, honestly, just to find so much damage out of that Zenyatta. Excited to see they'll be able to do that in fights to come, because that amount of damage allowed them to just completely chew through Space Force.
Yeah, for me it's really that duel between Teemo and Cameron that really interests me on this map, because that shield positioning, that aggression, or rather passiveness, that choice is really interesting. Of course, the whole hook combo being a big deal, but it's mostly for me that where is the Orisa positioning? Do you get to run through the enemy with a shield, or do you rather try to stay for the Orisa off? Now, Sani going down, Kotetsu being pulled off the map, I don't think this is going to be a successful push, and yeah, they do seem to have just given up and jumping off the map here.
Yeah,
So that was
looking
not
to
a
be
successful one for Space Force.
Yeah, we do see a couple of stagger picks coming out there. Teemo does take out Cameron, and that's going to shave a little bit extra time off as we actually see Cameron swap onto this Winston. Doesn't seem to like this static mode of play.
Yeah, it's not even just the time they shave off, it's all the ult charge, because look at that ult back on Relentless. All 6 of them almost up. Sure, okay, JB's gets that first pick, and now they dive in, but Zany also goes down.
Zany will be finding a bit of damage, but the Dragon Strike, unfortunately, coming out from Fitzy's and finding very little. He's starting to charge it up pretty well. It's going to be Mr. Gerdex finding a bit of damage with that whole hug. Going to take out Katetsu, but Cameron continuing to be aggressive here. Wants to find some of that damage down. There's a lot of healing, however, he needs to be careful about. Mr. Vertex is keeping him at bay as the rest of his team just falls yet again. Reagan's being so impressive here. Will fall to their death, but, you know, it's okay because the rest of his team is keeping it up for him.
And Cameron was pre-positioning himself to get that Primal Rage and try to knock some people on the cliff. But at that point, there was just not enough people alive on his own team to distract them from just, well, being chunked down by Hanzo and the rest of his crew of Relentless. So that first point definitely going off to Relentless with a very strong showing. Just goes to show that Cameron is really not as proficient on that Orisa as Teemo likely is. As you said before, he's more of the aggression player, so the Reinhardt, the Winston, really more of his wheelhouse than Orisa, who's a little bit more about the static positioning, as you said.
And it did not feel like the identity of this team, and it really struggled to get too much going. I want to see them play more aggressive. I want to see some more snipers or spam come out from Seni and J-Beans. Interesting to see J-Beans on this Junkrat, though.
Yeah, and then Fitzy's on the Reaper, first time we've seen that today. So, really interesting to see that Relentless does not go through that high ground. That high ground start, of course, a very popular way. But now it just looks like they've given Space Force the attackers positioning, like just the defenders positioning, and they're just walking back at the spawn, thinking this is not the comp we want to go with. We're just going to switch off, go to this Pharah, Pharah Tracer dive, because they have not got an answer. Not a proper answer for our Pharah, and this Tracer can also likely get a lot of freedom.
And they're starting to be aggressive here. Emma Winston will be the first one to go down. Blue X killing their counterpart. It's going to be some aggression coming out from Fitzy's. Will take a lot of damage, and it's going to be Katetsu to take him out. Good play there, but Teemo and Reagan's are going to be lighting up that scoreboard, and yet again, another brilliant set of kills coming out from Relentless as they start to find their stride.
And that was just so important that they said, like, okay, we're just gonna walk out. If this doesn't work, we just go back in the spawn. Sure, we give up some percentage, but they get all the kills, all the ult charge, and yeah, it's nothing really that Space Force could do, because they were already there. They were not gonna go swap again. So they had to take that fight on the merits of Relentless. The only thing they had was positioning, and even that couldn't save them. And when your supports go down, that's a very hard fight to win.
We do see the Dragon Strike come out from Sani. Unfortunately, it whiffs a bit. They do take control, though. It was some decent zoning as we see Cameron continuing to be aggressive. Wants to deal with this D.Va. Does manage to put the mech, and the Moth comes through and will die to Katetsu. It's going to be some aggression coming out from this Tracer, getting some damage on Katetsu again, but we're going to see that self-destruct trying to zone them out. They're so close to taking over. It does discover in the end, and this is going to be looking for stalls now from the side of Space Force. They don't have much in the way of they're actually generating a lot back up as Emma Winston is already back towards the 80%.
Yeah, and what was really well played by Space Force is recognizing if we fight in the open space, Pharah's get a lot of value, and Junkrat might get a lot of value, or Tracer might get a lot of value. Winston, D.Va, all working with that space, and instead they choose to just go onto the point and stay there. To say, if you want to kill us, come and get us. It's the same type of deal we've seen a lot of these heavier comps do, especially with Reinhardt, is just saying we're going to stand here and you're going to take it, and well, take it they did.
And that self-destruct, unfortunately, not managing to find the kill from Mr. Gerdex. See Teemo pop that Primal Rage, eats a lot of damage, but he's still looking for an opportunity on this backline. will just regroup with his team. So much to be Fitzy's to clean on up. They're finding Vokia will get traded out though by Kotetsu. He is always on hand to make a quick deal with the enemy. It's going to be a load of kills coming through from Space Force as they do promptly shut down that push.
And once again, it just feels like Relentless doesn't have the beefiness and the sustain to actually go onto that point or get close to that point. Space Force just stands there and says, well, I mean, again, if you want to get in here, we'll just hold up our shields. We'll just heal ourselves back up, and then Hanzo will throw the Dragon Blade for Dragon Strike. Brigitte will just stun you and get some value there. The rally will come out in the middle. You just can't do the damage with the comp you have. Now I do say that they have a Junkrat and a Power notorious for the spam damage, and there does go Kotetsu. Very high picks, Transcendence being used to take that space, and the tire gets all the value it needs. That is going to be a one fight for Relentless and likely a point swap as well.
Space Force forced off themselves, and they will just come back. They can wait. They have 99%. All they need is one fight won, and then they will be taking this round, evening up the scoreline and looking towards that third map, which we will be going to regardless.
I mean, it's likely we'll go to regardless, just like on Lijiang, but it would be nice if we go there with a 1-1 scoreline, maybe. We do see Relentless having a good position, of course having a Barrage, Valkyrie, self-destruct there, almost a Primal Rage, but Space Force not looking too shabby in their own old economy there.
They do invest a bit in Fitzy's, unfortunately commits suicide there, shooting against the wall, blowing themselves up, and Relentless getting a little bit zoned off. This is some great focus by starting to come through from the side of Space Force. You see Teemo pop that Primal Rage, trying to contest some of those spots, looking for an opportunity, but the rest of the team just can't seem to find too much, and that'll be Relentless losing out here as Space Force even up the scores to 1-1, and we're going to have a contested last map.
Yeah, it's once again, it's just Cameron and crew walking onto that point and saying, this is ours now. Sure, you can stall a bit, but everyone who comes in here will be met with hammers and maces. Very well played, very well recognized by Relentless in the first place to just swap off and take that first control. But yeah, well played by Space Force to just largely stay on the same comp and just play it out the way they thought it would work, and it did work out for them in the end. Now we're going on to Shrine here. This is not Village we just played. And on Shrine, there's usually a lot of Pharah, but we see actually a heavy comp versus a heavy with a double sniper. Looking to challenge each other. Relentless going to get there first, as they do have that Lucio for more than just the first seconds. As I say that though, Space Force seems to be getting there first.
Yeah, they took a more direct passing, and as a result, Relentless are going to have to fight them for this point. They do decide to do it, and do it quite well, as Kotetsu is taken out early. J-Beans goes down as well, and this is looking good for Relentless.
Yeah, while Space Force did take a more direct pathing, they didn't have the... weren't there so much quicker that JBs and Sadie could maybe take up some off angles, take up like those different sidelines that they could potentially chunk down some supports from the side. So yeah, they were just overrun. Just a 3-3 running all the way over them, and they're going further. They go all the way to that spawn here.
And this is just them getting spawn camped right now. Relentless being super aggressive, reminiscent actually of M&M on King's Row. That's one of the old teams of Cameron. Was a very impressive one, but Relentless will back up. They're not going to quite keep up that pressure. They're going to give an opportunity to try and get a flank off. They want to get Cameron. They can take out that main tank. It's going to be a real struggle for Space Force to get on in here.
Yeah, we're doing some poking here. Saini going into that Pharah. Of course, there's no real long-range contest for that. And yeah, he's gonna get a lot of damage. Already 40% towards that barrage, 50 as I say that, almost to 60 now.
They're gonna keep on being aggressive. Mr. Gotex again coming out a lot of damage, but his team is struggling to keep up. We see Blue X trying to heal them with that Coalescence, but it's not quite enough as Space Force do shut him down. It's gonna be Mr. Gotex following suit in just a short period of time. He might even get stalled there.
We do get to that, almost to that 70%. And Fitzy's does have a Graviton. And as we said before, the Grapples haven't really seen the value that they've seen sometimes in a lot of other games. There's no combo here for Relentless other than a self-destruct, which is now already being thrown in. It does get the pharmacy, so now that should be a very open fight for Relentless.
They're going to need to use this opportunity. They could take the map right here, right now. Only 33% off. J-Beans and Cameron making a case as to why they really, really shouldn't. Unfortunately, Cameron getting pushed off the map, and Adurnham and Bluette going to find a couple of picks, and Relentless take back control.
It's actually Cameron saying, okay, if you want to be a main tank, I'm just going to take you with me off the cliff. Sure, I'll die as well, but it might give my team the edge. It didn't, but it might have give them some regrouping edges here and there. Now we do see a lot of ultimates on the side of Space Force. So even though that timer's ticking up, I see a flip coming in here.
Certainly will be. Katetsu's the only one missing, and they're going to generate that pretty quickly. Unfortunately, Relentless drop that Graviton Surge and pretty much lock them all up. Give them an opportunity to take out Seni and Katetsu. Res does come through, but Relentless now getting hit by that Graviton Surge. We need to see the capitalization. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite come through. Jamie's tries to spam, but unfortunately we get destroyed by Mr. Gertex. And alongside that Coalescence, this is looking like Relentless might just close it out here.
This has all been Mr. Gertex's round. That self-destruct on the pharmacy, eating the Dragon Strike when they were all grabbed up. That was the only window that Space Force had there in that fight to win it, and Mr. Gertex just denied everything they had. Very well played by Relentless. I really like their switches on Village. It was unfortunate they didn't win that one. They did very well on Sanctum, again, just shutting out that entire push of Space Force time and time again. And a very, very, very strong finish on Shrine as well. Now, I don't think we're actually going to be going into Sanctum again. But no,
that looks like it's the last game. Everyone else, apart from a couple of players, has left. Thank you very much, by the way, for joining us today for our first cast for Horizon. Definitely come join there if you're interested in some competitive teams and a great environment. And definitely come join us for some of our other casts, because we'll be casting scrims of multiple teams, specifically Horizon ones in most of the cases, but we will be catching everyone we possibly can. So we'll see you around.
Definitely. So again, we've been Rook. Of course, you can find him on Twitter as well at rook.gg. And I've been Shredking. You can find me at ShredkingOW. We've been. I think we've had some fun here tonight. Some good games to watch. Definitely having some fun with Horizon. And like you said, we'll be around. So we'll see you guys in the next one.